Hello, I'm Toycat, and welcome back to the second channel video. Today I have some more Geography of Toycat for you all. It's everyone's favourite second channel series about geography, and I've been doing a lot of these recently about really kind of in-depth subjects, and I figured that's a cool thing and all, but it usually ends up being centered around Europe, because that's where most of my geographical, historical knowledge comes from, and I figured, you know, let's take a break from that, let's do a really out-of-depth series. You know, let's do one that's the opposite of in-depth, and what I'm going to be doing today is just pointing out 5 countries in the world that look kind of strange. It's like a hopping off point to show oh yeah, look, every continent has some countries you maybe haven't heard from before. Here's an opportunity to hear one fun fact about them. So yeah, here are 5 countries that look kind of weird and a fun fact about each of them. Hopefully you'll do enjoy it. It's going to be a shorter than average episode, but still, just playing around with stuff here. That's what this series is all about, just having fun and teaching you some things about the world and also learning as we go along, because every episode there's something where I'm let me look that up and be oh, that is slightly different to how I figured it would be. And yeah, with that said, let's get straight into it. And we'll start with Europe because, again, whenever I'm, going over and talking about all the different countries, I'm always tempted to point out how Croatia looks like it's kind of like a knife. It looks like a really sharp, I guess, the Halo blade thing. But it's not just that makes Croatia such an interesting shaped country. Because if you looked at right here, this is the shape of Croatia. It's also the fact that it has all of these islands. And then the fact that because, although it's only existed for 24 years, it wasn't too much of a problem when it was inside Yugoslavia alongside all of these other countries. But basically, since it's split, there's this really interesting thing where Croatia just steals all of Bosnia's coast. Look at this, it just goes all the way past, and that means that Bosnia still has one port just over here, but it means that every other bit of the entire coast is just stolen by Croatia. When you look at country sizes, it usually makes sense. It's a big blob of just this is what's roughly defensible. Like Spain, it makes sense because this is the thin part, so they defend that, and that's a little thing. But whenever you get a place like this, it's just how did those negotiations go down? Oh yeah, so we'll just have 99% of the coast, even your coast, all of it, it's ours, and we'll go on for that. Again, I can't be sure how that happened. I do happen to know, though, that there is a lot of Croats, which are the Croatian people inside Bosnia. There's a really weird, mixing of all the peoples, because, again, all 6 of these countries here did all, exist inside Yugoslavia before. But again, I thought it was a fun fact to share with you. It's also a fun fact that Croatia are the newest member of the EU. They made it the EU 29, although it'll go down to EU 28 again recently afterwards, so they're going to make things confusing because they're one of the few members of the EU that joined by themselves rather than as part of a group. So yeah, fun fact you might not have known. But let's move on to another country that's outside Europe, because again, most of my focus is done here because I've been going and traveling around a lot of that whole stuff. But yeah, with that said, let's move next on to Africa, because Africa, it's made up of some really weird borders. Like I said, there's the unclaimed land here that no one has any claim to, which is just kind of funny to me. But as well as just unclaimed land, as well as countries inside countries, there is also one I find really interesting here, which is the Gambia. If you look at the Gambia, it's one of the strangest shaped countries because it looks like it's like a colon and then stuff that, the colon leads to. And it's just a really, really bizarre shape where these borders are circular and strange, and they all center around this one river. The river's called the River Gambia, I believe, as you can see right here. And yeah, the Gambia, the reason it exists and the reason it's in this particular form is because it was a colony of the UK. Go Britannia, going around stealing countries in the world. But yeah, as a result of that, there's just a particular not breed of people, but a particular type of people that all, know about the River Gambia. And because it is the only river in their entire country and of their people, they call it just the river. And I thought it was pretty cool that there is just a people that center around one river. There's very few countries in the world like this. In fact, next to none, especially not with a country that literally just goes around their river like this. And I think it's really cool, not only because the country looks so strange. Again, it looks like an intestine or something like that. But also, if you look around the place, it's just a really, really strange mixture of borders, a mixture of weird things, and just a weird looking country in general, where they just have the river, if you will. So yeah, that is the Gambia, the second country here. The third one I want to talk about is Chile, or Chile. I call it Chile, but I'm pretty sure it's Chile because, there's not a second L and a Y or something. But yeah, this is Chile, or Chile. Again, Chile seems more natural to me because that's why I've called it, and that's what everyone called it when I was growing up. But I'm pretty sure it's Chile. But call it what you will. It's one of the strangest shaped countries on Earth because it is one of this. It's one of the it's a really small country in terms of area, but because it goes so far north and south, if you measure countries by north-south distance, it's up there in the top 5 in the world. So yeah, Chile is one of the biggest countries. That's also one of the smallest countries because it also only has 17 million people living there, and most of those are centered around Santiago. However, the reason I think Chile is so cool is not only because it's the weirdest ratio between north and south and east and west and stuff, but also if you actually look at particular places in it. So if we go to the very north here, you can see that it's it's very close to the equator. So if we actually look around any part of Arica right here, you'll see how it looks like it's a desert climate, right? This looks like it is somewhere in a crazy desert in Africa somewhere. But you look at this is the same country. You would call yourself a Chilean if you lived there, or whatever you call yourself. But if you go to the south all the way down to here, because the country is so tall on this axis. If we then, you know, find like some random thing to explore around here, I'm sure there is one. There's one just over here, for instance. You can actually see how this looks like it's an entirely different country. It's covered in snow. It's an Arctic kind of climate. It's incredibly cold there, and this is the same country. That's right. This place here, you would call yourself a Chilean if you were from here. You would call yourself a Chilean if you're from there. This is one of the very few countries in the world where that is the case. Again, it's so crazy to me that they're such a small country, but they have this massive diversity because they just have this strange stretch of land. And yeah, that's a funny looking country you might not have known anything about. Again, if you want to know about where you'd go in it, Santiago is the vast majority of the country's population, and yeah, it's one of those sorts of countries where everyone's kind of centers in one place. And yeah, fun fact about Chile you might not have known: it's very tall, and it's very, very close to the Antarctic, because they technically have a claim to the Antarctica, because again, it kind of fits with their territory. Like, they just kept going south past where even Argentina didn't want to go, and then they figured, you know, here's you know, the Antarctic, so let's go do stuff there. But yeah, with that said, let's move on from Chile onto the next one here, which is going to be Brunei. So Brunei is another one of these countries where, you know, the UK, we had an empire, so we just owned a lot of countries. That's the deal. And they only gained independence in the 70s, I believe, alongside the Gambia, which was in the 60s. So really, really recently. Well, all these countries are somewhat recent, I guess. But yeah, Brunei is a really interesting country because if you look at it, it's split into two parts. But also, if you look at it, it's all enclosed by Malaysia. And all of Malaysia is enclosed by, Indonesia. So it's like Indonesia owns most of the island, and they're like kind of like a spooning Malaysia, and Malaysia's kind of spooning Brunei here. I know that's weird to talk about in country terms, but that's really what's happening here. It's a very, very bizarre kind of country thing, and the reason I think it's so interesting is because even though it's a tiny nation, and even though it's split into two bits in a really strange way that, like, they can connect but only through boats, they can't go over land to each other, even though there is a road, but you have to go for it. It's messy, but yeah, even in spite of this kind of weird stuff right here, it is one of the most successful countries on the earth because they found oil. That's right, this is an oil country, and they're like ranked 30th in the world for like human development, which means they're a very advanced country. Even though they're in a part of the world where you don't usually expect that, they are a very, very successful country. They're very wealthy, and they're kind of like, like Dubai of this place. So that's one way you want to think about it. If you want to go to somewhere in the Asia/Australia region, but you don't want to go to somewhere that isn't very rich, then go to Brunei, I guess. That's a really weird specific request you have. Oh, also, fun fact, even though the country spans two bits, this part only contains, I think it's like 3% of the population or something. Most people live in this part. This is where their big city is, their capital, etc. And also, their entire country contains less people than like most major cities, with just 400,000. To put it in perspective, that's 1/20th the population of London. That's 1/10 the population of just Chile, which is a small country, is biggest city. So yeah, put in that perspective for you. Very tiny country, very rich country though. You know, that always works that way. There's a certain amount of oil, and there's very few people to spread it around, so they make a lot of money. So yeah, with that said, let's move on to the final country here, which is one that tried so hard with its borders. So you know how much I love borders and the way they're weird sometimes and not weird other times. You know, look at this lovely border right here. Look at these borders. They're all great. Look at the US state borders for the most part. They're all nice square boxes. However, there's a country that really tried and kind of failed there, and it's Uzbekistan. So Uzbekistan is a former USSR republic. I almost said Yugoslav. It's a former USSR republic, and basically it's just one of those countries that was part of the USSR, so it wasn't too big of a deal about the internal borders, but Stalin started playing around with them, and you end up with this, where it's like, oh yeah, we're trying so hard on this border, nice straight point-to-points, just gonna make this thing happen, and then, that's how I picture this being done. This is one of the messiest borders in the world. If you actually look at it, it's just one of the strangest, like, the amount of border they have is just massively exaggerated, because it goes like, oh yeah, this is ours, and then not ours, this is theirs again, and then like up there. Also, we own territory inside their territory. If you look here, things just get really, really confusing, really, really fast. Where like there's a look at this tiny little thing right here. Why does this need to be the case? And you can kind of see how this goes on and on and on and on. And again, the reason for this is to kind of stir internal tensions to make them all part of the USSR. I don't entirely understand it, but yeah, Stalin liked messing around people, and one of the results of that is you end up with a country like this strip belongs to Uzbekistan, I believe it is. Sorry, it belongs to someone else. I don't know who it is. But yeah, you can see there's like enclaves inside exclaves, and it's just a mess of borders in the world that was all done for no good reason, and that no one really wants to fix because it's been there for so long. And yeah, basically, like I said, it's a country that tries so hard and failed. So yeah, that's Uzbekistan, a country I'd love to go to at some point, but maybe not, maybe not the dangerous bits and stuff. But yeah, that is a fun fact about this part of the world you might not have known. Oh, actually, you know what, while we're here anyway, Mongolia, I believe it is the only double landlocked country in the world. Or maybe, I think it's Kyrgyzstan, actually. It's the only double landlocked country in the world, besides, like, the Vatican City or, like, Liechtenstein, I think it is, where if you, not only does it not have, like, a proper sea, like an ocean to get to, but every country around it also does not have a sea. So, yeah, fun fact you might not have known right there. Or maybe that's Uzbekistan. I don't know the countries. But yeah, hope you did all enjoy today's little geography of Toycat thing. If you did, then, you know, it's the second channel. I don't care. Hope you enjoyed your day. Hope you're having a lovely Saturday. If you're wondering, these go out on Saturdays when I upload them. And it's Friday for me because I'm going to go stream some Pokemon Go. But that's in the past now, so I'm going to go have streamed Pokemon Go. Have a nice day, everyone. Goodbye.